I'll go ahead and.
Okay.
I'm just glad to see someone younger than me struggling with technology.
Guess I could sit over here today to balance things out. New perspective.
Yeah.
This is where all the cool people sit.
I'm sorry to hear you're losing.
Me too.
You've been a great help on this board.
Thank you.
Where are you going?
Fayetteville, Arkansas. I got a
That's
bunch
a
of
beautiful spot.
It is. It's real different from Austin. I've got 3 sisters up there and their kids and a bunch of friends. We've been going up there for the last 30 years or so to visit. Annie, my wife, she's been wanting to do this for several years, and I just like, we'll get to it.
We just needed her to come in the room. All right.
Well, it's not a bad place to be, so that's great.
All right. This is the Parks Commission calling the meeting to order. Let's do a quick roll call.
Diana Wallace.
Sean Downing.
Melissa Morrow.
Don Hudson.
Laurie Mills.
Great. All right. We didn't have any signups for public comments. So the first thing we're gonna do is approve the minutes from the December 9th meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Any questions? Any changes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, so next order of business is who wants to be chair? All right. I'm willing to continue to be chair. I need a motion.
I motion Melissa continue to be chair.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, done. Thank you.
Melissa,
Maybe
you've
the
done
fastest,
an absolutely
easiest-
great job
Well, thank you.
of this.
Well, I thought we were gonna have Kevin and Kevin here today. I guess, are they here? We don't have anybody online?
Is here virtually. We did let everyone know about the meeting.
Okay, cool, great. Okay, well, we may come back to that later because I think they both wanted to speak just as the beginning of the year, starting over, and for Kevin Shell, he's just started to be our liaison. So he might just speak, introduce himself and just say what he thinks his role as the liaison is going forward. But we can move forward with update from Western Hillsville League and girls softball.
Thank you very much. Steve Frank with Western Hills Softball. Just updates. We're right in the midst of registration, about to end in the next week or so. Tentative dates, spring season for the fields. Practices for some teams will start probably February 2nd, and by February 9th week, we should have most of our teams going up there. And then the season, first games will be February 28th and run through May 9th. And then, keeping in mind spring season, we take off for the 2 weekends of spring break, which I think this year Eanes is 3/14 and 3/21. And then we take off for Easter, which is 4/4 weekend. And other than that, just, I'm not sure on softball. We'll see if it happens, but just know with spring season, I know Little League will usually have ones, but we usually go past those dates with all-star teams. That's just dependent on, you know, who wants to play and how many teams and all that, and who all's practicing in age groups and things like that. So that's kind of for spring season.
Do you know how many teams? I know you said you.
I have not looked at the breakout of numbers. Our numbers look like they're the same as last year, but
Which is around.
we're in the, it's going to be around 90-ish, hopefully a little bit more. We still have a week and a half left. Little League's evidently a lot more than that. But yeah, age groups, I'm not sure. You know, we've had 14U, we've had a hard time with the past year or two, and then 6U. So hopefully we might have those teams back. I don't, it just all depends on who aged up and everything.
I know that, Western Hills Little League grows at a 10% rate each year, or has been.
Yeah, I talked to Jay on Friday, and their numbers are way up for T-ball. I think they're over 200. So they'll have a really strong spring season.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else?
Yeah, I guess just to bring this up now, just because this isn't dog leash, but just for historical, the concession stand, evidently, I know a lot of things have changed with Fieldhouse and all that, but like in the past, we basically used to have full control of the concession stand. Back when Amber was here, she came to us and discussed having the city have access to be able to keep supplies and all that in there. I had no problem with that. I know in the past, I-9's kept stuff in there. They've always asked me for access. Since I've been up there, I don't know how many, but some of the fitness class is keeping stuff in there. Nobody ever told me about that. So I guess if somebody could at least ask or let me know, we definitely have lots of stuff in there, and it's not all locked up in the actual security cage. So I just want to make sure I know who has access to that building or whatever, because I want to limit it. Because like I said, we don't always keep all of our stuff in there. If we need to, we can move it, but just a courtesy ask, I guess.
So they got permission from the city and the mayor, and but now that you have concessions coming up, because I know some of the area that they stored in was off in front of where you would serve.
Well, we don't even run concessions anymore.
Okay.
That's why we started giving out more access to the city to keep stuff in there, because once COVID hit, we don't do concessions anymore.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to know who has access, and
Yeah,
so we're not always
we can
thinking
share
we
that
keep
with
our
you.
stuff.
We can share that with you after.
And so are they using, are they using our key box, or they have their own
Yes.
key?
They
Okay.
use that key box.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's, if it comes up again, if there's a way,
Yeah.
we could just be notified at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I'd appreciate that.
Sure, you bet.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And like I said, I know Western Hills Little League's numbers are up, and hopefully they'll give us a schedule of what their dates are going to be. But I don't think they had. I know they're going to have some more. What is it? Yeah, they'll have some more times when they start getting the kids out there.
And
Oh, yeah. So that, which reminds me, is making sure that we have signage out there to remind people that any programmed activity, kids activity that goes out there has priority of the field use.
And do we have those from years past, or are we creating those each year?
We use the same signs each year, so we'll go ahead and remind Public Works to put those out there.
Great.
Great.
Yay. Update from Western Hills Athletic Club. They're not here today, but obviously they have a lot of construction going on. I know I talked to Alan a little bit about how they were using and accessing from the city side. That was not planned for, or the city was not made aware of that ahead of their construction. It wasn't in their construction drawings or designs. And so, the city is working to make sure that they move that to the side of the club. I don't know how successful they are, because I know there's different levels, so I don't know if they're gonna be able to do that, but, I know Ellen's working on that. Any questions? I know many of you who are members, you might have gotten an update. They had hoped that the area for the pool they were gonna be done really soon, but they found that there continues to be a leak in the pool, and so they're gonna be closed for an additional week or so. So we'll have to wait and see. All right. Next we have the discussion possible action on recommendation to City Council to approve the Rollingwood Women's Club 5K event. So if you'll introduce yourself and say your address and.
Okay. Yes. Hello. I'm Scotty Downing. My address is 4820 Rollingwood Drive, and I'm here on behalf of the Rollingwood Women's Club to seek y'all's blessing to get our 5K approved for March 29th. We'll do a 5K at 8:30 a.m., Kids K, which is about a 1K at 9:15 a.m. We'll have a party in the park afterward until about 11. I think last year we actually started cleaning up around 10:30, so we had a very generous timeline for actually events that happened very quickly. We expect about 300 participants. I think it's possible we could have more this year. I would hope to have more, but it was a super fun event. Last year we had a bounce house, face paint, Lupe Chartia came and sold tacos, and yeah, it was great.
And you've already coordinated with the police department on the route and everything.
We have. So the route will be the exact same from last year, which from what I've heard was also the same from many, many years ago. So I'm hoping that it'll be easier without all the construction on Hatley this year. that was fun. But it all worked out. Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but hopefully it'll be pretty smooth. But the police seemed to have it all figured out, knew exactly what they were supposed to do. They also had coordinated with Westlake Hills Police to just make sure that everybody was on the same page. But we're doing it Sunday morning, which hopefully is the least disruptive to traffic. And we mostly just use the lower park. So Upper Park, we don't have any activities up there other than some parking that people will access, but most of the neighbors just jogged over. So it was pretty mellow. And I did not hear many complaints last year about anybody having issues getting out or in from the road closures. So hopefully that's, even with more communication this year, that should not be a problem.
Right, cool. Any questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second? Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Well, hopefully you have our blessing and that goes super fast at council. Great. All right. So we are to the discussion and possible action creating a separate dog park. I'm going to skip to number 8. We have our landscape designer here right now. And if you'll bring up some of the design stuff. So just to bring everybody up to speed, in early December, one of the things that our landscape designer had concerns about and had told us that we needed to look into was there are 5 trees, large, heritage-sized trees that we wanted to make sure and protect. And so we met the arborist that we normally work with. I believe it's Austin Tree Experts, and they were able to basically describe to us, and that's what you'll see in as one of the tree care items. They basically said that most of our trees don't have exposed roots, so they would have to dig down a little bit to see where those main roots will go, but in order to sort of design a full scope of from design to 3 years down the road, making sure that those trees are taken care of. That's what you'll see in the bid in the packet. So I believe that Kurt, and he can speak to this, feels very comfortable with what we've talked about with the arborist, with the design that he's made so far. that the grid pattern will not interfere with any of the critical root zones, and shouldn't affect it. There is some, again, proactive work that the arborist, tells us that we should do to take care of the trees. It includes exposing the roots, aerating them, then putting up protection around the trees to make sure that they're not impacted by the construction. And then afterwards, basically for the next 3 years, doing a or I call it weed and feed, a feed process that gives the trees their best chance to grow strong and do really well. If anybody else was there when the tree experts were there and wants to add to that, there was a little bit of design change or addition because it will create some deeper wells. Some of what we exposed when we just did the project that Gomez did was that a lot of our trees were buried higher than they should normally be. And I think the same is the case near this driveway. The one particularly, if you look at the driveway from Rollingwood Drive and make a little, on the left-hand side, that's where that tree, her finger is really close to it. That tree is one of the ones that we will have to kind of be aware of. So Kurt, you want to walk us through the design a little bit, or that'd be great.
My name's Kurt Arnett, and I'm a landscape architect. And yeah, one of the main concerns I was worried about on those trees was to be able to get the depth of the base material that we would have to cut the roots. And after visiting with arborists, it looked like they'd been buried, so we'll be able to get back down to the grade, and we'll be able to come in with the base material and not cut the roots, because to add to it is the fill material is pervious. So it would be, so I think we're going to be able to do that. But really, the main thing we're doing here is kind of just replacing the parking lot that's there, making it a little more organized. Also using the parking lot to detain runoff. The way it's designed, it has a pervious layer, so it'll actually be almost like a bath that'll take that water. And then the way I have it designed, it's going to discharge. There's like a French drain pipe at the bottom. It'd be at the bottom of the drawing. So water that moves through will start to fill this French drain and release it back into kind of the woods. We have boulders that we placed there to kind of dissipate that. But as it raises up, it's going to hold a lot of gallonage. And then finally, I have the I guess that'd be the eastern side there. That curve is perforated, so any additional will start to come out, not in one location, but it'll be dispersed along the entire curve there. So the idea also is that the paving surface will be a gravel, an angular gravel. There'll probably be a gray or a darker color, and the paving stalls will be demarcated by these little buttons that they put in the grid. And so that was, we also accounted for some handicap parking spaces. Those would be made out of concrete. And then the entrance coming off Rollingwood Drive, that would also be concrete. And the way I have it graded is it's a little more level coming in instead of sloping off to the west. It's a little more level, and that's the main thing. This design is kind of based on moving the fence, the baseball fence, in order to get the full parking bays, which we were having 18-foot parking bays, and then the moving lane would be 24 foot, so it's 60 foot altogether. Raised curb to kind of prevent people from backing into the plantings and the pathways. So besides just this more kind of functional thing, we also tried to use some boulders and planting similar to what's just recently been done. So I was showing boulders there at the entrance, for aesthetic reasons, but also to retain the grade on the side of the drive. So that would step down, and then in some of these parking islands, using groupings of boulders there, so it was a little more aesthetically pleasing. And then, adding plantings, that's on another sheet. And I may have overdone the plantings a little bit, but I'm a landscape architect, so.
Can you show the other sheet?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I know we've talked about this before, but how much are we moving the fence? And then my second question is, what is the material used for the top of the parking bays? And then are they boulders or columns at the front?
Well, it was a combination there at the front, and this is just an idea I had. There's not really any signage at Rollingwood Park that I can see, and so I thought, why don't we introduce a material like some columns that would kind of, I don't think this is a proper location for the main sign, but these columns could be repeated. Like, we have some columns that are gonna be necessary. Let me just, come on.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
better.
So right here, I was proposing a gate here that would not be an automatic gate, but just a swing gate that can be closed to, to limit traffic back here.
Mhm.
And the gate, I had 2 columns there. And then I wanted to kind of set a precedent with the type of stone. Maybe we look at some stone that's already been done here and mimic that. So those are masonry columns. And then here, I was proposing some columns here on either side, and that could be duplicated in the future, maybe further down this way if we wanted to do some signage. So there's some consistency along the Rollingwood Drive. But also I had these boulder terraces here, and basically just like 1 foot tall average boulders that would create these ledges, and you can see how that's been done over here.
Mhm.
And then in these areas, just for kind of interest and also to protect some of these plantings, I had groupings of boulders here, and then a few, like these would be boulders that would be tall enough that you could sit on. So if somebody was waiting here, they could sit. Same thing over here. This becomes a little bit of a amphitheater area with sitting boulders.
And then what is that material that ends each parking spot?
This is
You called it a curb, but I know it's not a concrete curb, right?
It is. This is.
Oh, it
concrete.
is.
It's
Okay.
It's what they call a turbid gutter. So it has the curb part and then the gutter.
Yeah, it has the little notches out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I put the notches on this side only. I think I probably will need to. Scroll down. Oh, okay. I'll probably need to have some openings over here also. But I have a detail. Can we go back to the other? So here is kind of a cross section showing the curb, gutter, and then this is the pervious material, and this is the top layer, which I'm thinking would be that kind of gray basalt material, which is angular. It's about 3/8 to 1/2 inch, and this top layer is about 2 inches. This is where that plastic thread is.
Okay.
In some areas, so this works real well when the grade is going to be up here next to the curb. Some areas where we excavate down, like I'm thinking over there by where the pool is, it's actually going to have to be more of a retaining wall to hold this base material because our existing grade's down further than the top of the curb. This is the idea for, and I just, this design could change, but it was just a fence that was just basically keeping cars from going to that back area and columns here.
Do you have any costs associated with any of this?
I think we had some cost for this, I think the excavation was
Well, I meant for the new design with the columns and the plants and all of that. Like yours part of that. I knew we had it for the parking lot.
No, I don't have that.
Okay.
No, in fact, I don't really know if we're wanting to do all of the.
I'm a little concerned with maintenance, obviously, and adding more than we need to for cost purposes. I think this is very beautiful and I love it in that respect, but I want to also be mindful of where the money comes from and how we maintain it well. And I guess I just have concerns there. So
Well, one good thing about this style of planting is it doesn't have to be, and I think you'll see that in other areas out here. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's more of a
Right.
loose design. I have plants that are evergreen and some that are flowering.
it just looked like a lot of plants when I saw the drawing, and I was like, well, maybe we can pare it down and do,
Yeah.
half of what's in there.
To me,
And I love the continuity of the boulders throughout and pulling
Yeah.
that with the upper playground that has the boulders. I love that continuity. I don't know how I feel about the columns, if it feels like too much for that area, but again, it's just raising questions.
yeah, I think, to me, this area, and then this down here, besides the trees, I think the trees, I tried to use some of the varieties they had specified before, but I didn't use the full amount because they had trees down here, they had a few up here, so there's still some that were in that estimate before. But to me, I think this is important here, and this and that. This could just stay grass, I think. And what I was proposing is, this dashed line is where the trail is now, and it's lined with chopped limestone. The idea here is to loosen that up a little bit, and let the paths be defined by boulders and planting, but I was wanting to put that curving along the base of that fence, so it could retain the granite, and also create an edge for that grass on the side.
Can I ask 2 questions? Are you guys still working
ahead,
down?
go ahead.
Will the walking path be maintained here? It's hard for me to understand in the visual.
Yes,
Okay.
the walking path is maintained, but the idea was it would be a little looser, and instead of having a parallel path that's edged on both sides, it would still have the same area, but it would be defined more by the boulder placement.
Okay.
And so it would vary with, this would all be decomposed granite.
Oh, got it.
But the boulders would just kind of delineate planting areas and walk areas.
Would it still have the limestone, border, the limestone?
That's where I was wanting to relocate that to form a curving.
On the other side of the plants.
Okay, so it'd be concrete, the back side of the concrete curb would be one side of the trail, and the other side would be probably the same as it is now?
It would be I was thinking we could move that curving to the fence,
Okay.
so it retains the granite, but these plants would just be coming out of the granite, so it would be like a
Okay.
separate mulch. That would be the mulch.
So the trail would be really defined by the boulders and the plantings and the fence?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's a lot, I'd say looser. Still serves the same purpose. And probably that's the way that it is out there. If you see the boulders, just the granite comes right up to the boulders, I think. There, yeah, what you just did?
Up here? I think so.
Turn it around. So there's,
Second question is, it looks like a fairly significant chunk of the existing ball fields are being taken. I mean, that's relative, large chunk, but bigger than I was originally
Anticipating.
visualizing in my mind. What would be helpful? I don't see the second backstop. I guess it would be the north backstop on here, because from the drawings, it seems like that north backstop would be affected. Is that wrong? I'm very well could be
This
wrong.
backstop is over here,
Over there, okay.
and a way to get you kind of.
But that would have to be moved though, because now the parking lot is in the third baseline.
It kind of comes in here a little bit.
Right, which,
I think
but you
that's
can't
where
have a backstop back there because that would be left field at the parking lot. So the backstop would have to move up.
I guess it depends on how far they can hit.
I think
Can you, is it possible
more or
for you
less
to
here.
show us where the, which
It's
line is
like
the
here.
existing?
Right, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The existing fence line,
It's
and then
not back
where's
here,
that
It's up here.
fence line moving to?
So this is the, so if you go out there,
Bless you.
you'll see that there is a line to, and the fence kind of changes angle, and that's right here. And so that fence continues this way. See that line?
Yeah,
And it comes all the way over here and it hits right here.
Yeah.
This is where that,
fence
what do we
is.
call that, the,
Sally Port.
Sally port.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Sally port. So, at that little junction, I brought it back in and ran it parallel with the property line down here. So, this is all parallel with this property line down here. And so, this is the existing backstop, the other existing
Mhm.
backstop. You can see kind of where we're.
If those backstops would, in my mind, need to be parallel with one another, because that's the entire first baseline on
baseline.
one side and third baseline on the other side. And so the backstop on the north in that corner back there would need to get moved out for the sake of a baseball field. Unless I'm,
And it's very important that we understand what's happening to these fields as we talk
That-
about what happens to the fields.
that's where my head's at. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it is really important that we're not taking from both sides.
Yeah.
So when we started on this project, we had talked to Western Hills Little League about how many feet did it move in?
Yeah, that was my earlier question.
Well,
And I know
Let's
it
see if I have
varies,
that.
but at the deepest,
oh, there it is. There. Okay. Oh, so this is the existing backstop,
Mm-hmm.
and so the fence was going this way.
No, it was about 5 to 8 feet off of it.
yeah.
So your fence
This
line,
is 10 feet right here.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was moving the fence to right there. To where, like, if you went out there right now and you saw that backstop,
The backstop would be right up against the fence.
Mhm.
that's right up against it. So it's
Should
shifting
be
that.
here.
Which is how the other ones are, they're built into the fence,
Mhm.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I
Yeah.
feel like it's down here.
It is down there.
Yeah.
That is, it's parallel with the existing one.
Which
So
is
you
now.
run a line.
Right.
So it's not,
Oh no, there is no backstop there. It's just part of the fence.
It's
Yeah.
part of the fence,
Yeah.
but, and also, just looking at Google Satellite, that field at the back, their third baseline does not actually match up
It
to
doesn't.
that line.
Mhm.
It's actually closer in, so
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
you might actually run into trouble. It just depends how far they would hit the ball, I guess.
Right.
I don't know what the measurement would be, and then, yeah.
it's very close.
And then, and then if you're moving that fence in for the dog, I mean,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it would
then
be
you're really
wise.
crunching it.
you're
Mhm.
solid, you're really condensing it.
I think it would be wise for us to see what it looks like
Yeah.
in real life. I mean, maybe everyone else can visualize it better than
No,
me
I
on
think it would
paper.
be great to
but I
have,
can't.
see
And
like stakes in the ground and see exactly what we're looking
Mhm.
at doing and taking. Cause
Mhm.
I'm very concerned about taking from both sides.
Mm-hmm. So it's hard to have this, so as you all remember, let's go back in time, all we were looking at was making the parking.
Yeah.
And since that time, we're now looking at, considering item number 7, creating a separate dog off leash area. And so, Kurt, you followed our direction at the beginning from what we believed we were trying to accomplish. And now, and this is the part that it's hard, so I'm going to go ahead and say we're also discussing item number 7 at the same time as number 8, because obviously they're inextricably,
It all impacts the field.
they do. And so I just want to run through, this is Melissa's like estimating, and you guys probably get sick of me doing this, but it's like when we started all this, our hope was to get this all done and possibly, put this parking lot in place by, this spring season. I think it's pretty obvious that we've slowed that way down. Not you necessarily, your plans as far as the parking goes has stayed on the same timeline. But I think this is where we have to decide and say, we want to take a breath. And it's great for us to have all this and we sort of have a plan for if things either stay the same or we come up with a design for an off-leash area that accommodates it. But just generally speaking, I think this design is fine for parking. Just generally speaking, I'm hearing columns, maybe we stick to just rocks and we simplify. Maybe again, when we think about upkeep, maybe it's not as many plants as we're looking at, because again, that's just stuff
Where's
that's
the budget coming from? We don't, RCDC
well,
or we
from
don't know?
RCDC
Okay.
or
And
the
city
city.
council
I
has
think
approved
once
some
we know
monies.
a cost for this, then we know how to adjust it accordingly, but I also feel like we don't need, anyway, we can discuss it
Right,
later,
so-
but yes,
so-
simplifying
So
is my
let's
goal.
just simplify. Okay, so
Remember this
Yeah.
plan, right? This overlay? I don't know if we can pull that up, but it is overlays Kurt's plan on the satellite. And
Oh
it
yeah, let's do
shows-
that.
oh yeah, that would
Let's
be
do
helpful.
that.
Can you? Is it possible to?
I don't remember what date that was.
Can
Is it from
you
our
just
packet?
email
It's
it
from
to
a
Michaela
previous
right
packet.
now?
Do you know, well, we wouldn't be able to upload it because it's not in the packet.
Okay.
It's in a previous packet, but
It's not in this packet.
Okay.
if there's.
There is
web
an
access,
overlay
Yeah.
that shows both of them.
And it seemed to me that corner it wasn't that the parking space would impact the field, it was really that.
Are you
corner
talking
that's
about right here?
landscaping.
This
Correct.
corner?
Do you mind just stepping up there and just kind of pointing out what you're seeing in that picture?
My understanding was, based on this, that there was a triangle here of sort of landscaping, but this parking space really only impacted this field, and this field had space to move, but this field, like the third base was somewhere far enough back,
Okay.
It does appear like it's pretty far, cause
yeah.
where that cutoff is almost even with the first base on the smaller field, so they're usually not hitting it that far anyway. So, it doesn't appear like it would come into too much play.
Well, good. Okay. Well, it would still be good
But
at
it just
some point
depends if
to
you
see what you're looking at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Field in.
Yep.
Hey, Steve, is, girls softball uses one of the 3 fields at
Yeah.
times? Do they use the northwest field that's like the upper right corner?
Correct.
Okay.
The one that's not on
Okay.
this side of the fence at all.
Yeah, that would be where you'd need some distance. Seems like the little kids, I've watched them play and they're not major league yet. So those could probably be, there's space there, where they play, but, we'd wanna be more cautious about moving where the girls use, cause they need space.
So time is going by. I'm going to try and, so part of, again, if I was to re-estimate like ideal timelines, let's say we take January, February, and March to continue to discuss a separate dedicated off-leash area. And maybe by the end of March, we have a good sense of what direction we're going with the off-leash area. We know that Little Leagues and softball, both will be having a spring season. It sounds like softball is starting as early as February. We also did not anticipate in all of our plans that the pool would be having all their construction at the same time in that same area. All this to say that, let's say that in 3 months or 6 months, we have a great plan for an off-leash area. I don't think, having talked to Kurt and a few other people about it, that we would want to put new construction in between whatever other construction we might do at that far end of the park. We wouldn't want big trucks, other things coming back there, whether it's whatever size it is, or unless we literally do nothing, we wouldn't want to impact that area. And we also don't know what size. It may impact where we put a fence line or exactly how many parking spaces. We may cut off 3 parking spaces if, there's something with the ball fields that has to adjust. So again, if we think January, February, March, maybe in April we have a good idea or moving towards, and then even then we would probably hire a designer to, this is assuming we decide we are going to have a separate off-leash area. We're probably looking at April, May, June for a design. And then somewhere, again, we gotta get construction documents and then bid it out to someone to do it. And we could do both projects at the same time, put them out there for bid, and then let's say they're out to bid in July and they get started in the fall, and we ask girls softball and boys Western Hills Little League ahead of time saying, hey, look, we'd really like to get this stuff done. Can you move some of your games? I know fall ball is much smaller than spring ball. With the goal of being able to create the separate off-leash area, do the parking lot next fall.
Why wouldn't we do it in the summer when no one's really using those?
Because then you're going to be driving tractors all over a fresh laid parking lot to do a dog park potentially.
Oh, I thought they were going to do them all at the same time.
But they would phase it. They'd do the
Yeah.
back part first, and then they would do the parking lot. And again, we may get this. We may be a month from now and say we've got a great plan, and I just know how slowly the neighborhood has asked us to be really thoughtful and make sure we're getting all the input that we need to make sure that the design that we come up with is something everyone can live with. I also have to get RCDC and the council. That's the other part about, we may say, great, we're happy, but then getting both RCDC and the council to agree that they like these ideas and plans going forward. So that's kind of like, in my ideal world, that's kind of how it would fall out. I know, and I do want to give you guys an opportunity to talk a little bit. So if we could stop for a moment and so Kurt, you can sit down, unless you guys have more questions about this design, and just talk about where we are with the separate off-leash area. I know the committee has met, and maybe you guys can kind of tell us where you are and what you think next steps would be in order for us to be able to make more decisions or gather more information.
Yep, we're ready to talk.
Yeah.
Go for it, Sean.
So we've had a handful of meetings and we've had a lot of discussions about various options and services and implications of the status quo, different size dog park, and so on. Here's what more information we need and some of the conclusions that we've drawn. The first is we can't make any sort of recommendation or have a meaningful discussion amongst council or commission without knowing the legal opinion of the restrictive covenant and the Western Hills lease. So we really need to get their opinion or have a special session with them so that we can have some open dialogue as to what we can and can't do. Like where are the restrictions and obligations that we have to meet based on the legal framework of both restrictive covenant and the Western Hills lease. So that's number one, is we really need that before we could have any sort of substantial discussion as to like a firm recommendation. Second, we should have a more meaningful meeting and discussion with Western Hills Little League, because whatever we come up with as far as a recommendation, it will impact them, and we want to make sure that we are respecting our tenants, and what are the options based on our different plans as to how efficient we could be with Western Hills, and what different layouts can be and timing of games, so that we know what our parameters are. So that would be another one. We'd probably need to have a special session with Western Hills, so they have a say in this as well.
And I have had 2 conversations with 2 different people at Western Hills, as well as Steve, and so we do have some insight, but yes, before we came with any recommendations, we'd want to have those discussions with them, because it will be a big impact to youth sports.
Yeah.
And I have had a couple of meetings with Alan, who has forwarded our concerns to the city lawyer, who is evaluating the restrictive covenant, or we are in the queue to be evaluated. The request was going just before the holidays began, so it's taken a little time to catch up, but we are in the queue to be evaluated, and it's going to be a very hard look at what can we do, what can we not do, what are we obliged to do, what, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm hoping that when we get out of the queue and actually in front of the lawyer, that we have some very specific answers, not theoretical, but yes and no.
And then the last item that we are discussing, and we want the commission's input on this, is the pros and cons of doing a survey. Because surveys, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, when you do a survey, you do get a good representation of the community, and no one feels like they're not being heard, right? If we went through this and made a recommendation without doing a survey, this is the con of it, right? Or the con of doing a survey is, and we went through and we didn't do a survey, no matter what, the people who don't get their way are going to say it's a tyranny of the minority. No matter what, because there isn't firm evidence that it isn't the tyranny of the minority, right? And I've heard that phrase get thrown around a lot here. And both sides think that the other side is the minority. The other side of doing a survey is you might not get a good representation of what the people want. So if you have different options like 0.4, 0.6, and status quo, and some people say, well, I want a separate dog park, but then it's 0.4, like, well, I wouldn't have wanted a separate dog park if I knew it was going to be 0.4, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really hard when you're polling 1,500 residents in a survey to get a really strong answer. So there's something in there, right? It's just we need to have the discussion as to what the best path forward is by weighing those pros and cons as a commission, and make a recommendation to council.
May I comment?
Of course, yeah.
When surveys come in the mail to me on various things, if I care about it, I think about it, and I give a weighted answer. A lot of them are, I just like, let's just do this and send it on, To me, the best way to do it would be to, within the planning powers of the park commission and whoever we design, to finalize a design and present it to the public. Say this is what we want to do, and where they would be looking at something that was pretty thoroughly baked. And I think to poll them, would you like this, or this? Well, their concepts, I think you'd get, I don't know if you'd get the best thing. To me, the best thing comes from working with thoughtful designers who take into account all the variables at hand and come up with a design, and maybe that's when you could get community input. Of course, if they rejected it, that would be awful.
So
but,
our thought because it's a good point, Don. Our thought on if we were to do a survey, and it's not saying we are going to do a survey, it's just our thought is if we were to do it, is you ask two questions. Is one is separate dog park or status quo, right? And if the 70% of people say separate it, then you have two very thoughtful designs with full implications of both. It's like 1 to 2 pages on each one that show what that plan looks like. So you have drawings, you have here's what the impact to Western Hills would be. It's, you know, and it would be like 0.4, 0.6. We're not trying to say here's a bunch of, you know, thoughtless ideas. And so it would be a pretty tight and well thought out survey. But still, even in that, it's hard to, like I said, then someone might say, well, I wanted a separate dog park, but not if it's 0.4, right? And it's like, it's really hard to capture all that nuance in it.
Yeah.
Well, and then you throw in cost. Because someone's like, yeah, I love 0.4, but if it costs $500,000, I don't want anything changed. You know, and so this is why for whatever 15 years we've been stuck where we are.
But I think this is the furthest this has ever
Yeah,
gone, and there is
for
a
sure.
real desire to separate it for health, safety, all kinds of things. And so I don't know that cost factors into it as much. I mean, we're look what we're trying to do with the
Yeah.
other parts of the park. I mean, I think this is just as important, and I think we have to put it out there to the people. Otherwise, we're going to look like we're not listening to people. And, you know, the survey will go out to everybody through the city. So I don't know of another way to get consensus or get as many voices heard as possible, but we're open to ideas if you have them.
Yeah, it is such a passionate topic that if it's not done where people feel like they have a say, then people are just going to say it was done in the shadow of darkness, and I don't trust the government, and they're doing things without against the will of the people, so on and so forth. We need a coup, you know. I mean, like, I wish it was. I wish that was an exaggeration.
I know.
Well, it sounds like what I'm hearing from you guys, number one was we'd like to have a meeting with legal counsel. And so Michaela, and I think probably, and again, this may be a question for the attorneys. So normally when you're talking about deed restrictions, agreements, etc., that's considered you're getting counsel from your lawyer. So that is done in executive session. And then that's the part that I don't
thought
know
Alan
exactly.
was just taking care of it, and Alan was going to report back to us.
Well, I don't think Alan's going to know every question that this group might want explored, and so my thinking is that we would post a meeting. Part of that meeting would be an executive session where we ask the lawyers, okay, here's the things, if we were going to break a lease, if we were going to keep the lease, if we were going to do something different. And again, I'm just throwing it out there as exploring all.
I don't
No,
want
no.
it to be. Our intent is not to break a lease. I don't want
understand.
that to be misunderstood.
Right. Well, what would be considered breaking the lease? Is it the number of fields on the thing? Anyway, all I'm saying is when you're getting legal advice, you should do that confidentially. And so some of the meeting would be open, but then any action that is taken has to be done in open session. So we would get our legal advice from the attorneys. We would make a meeting where we can ask questions. And then we would go into open session, and we might even ask the attorneys the exact same questions because we've gotten them answered with our attorneys. And then we just say we want to make everyone, because we want the whole city to understand what the rules are. Because right now, if you asked 15 people in the city what that deed interpretation is, you would get 15 different answers.
Well, that's why we want the attorney to tell us. And so I think we've asked pretty pointed questions, and we're just looking for what does the deed say we can and cannot do, and what does the restrictive covenant say we can and cannot do. I don't know if we need a whole, I don't know.
I'll check with Alan to
Yeah.
see what the best path forward would be for this type of situation, since, you know, we have different ideas of what the best way to proceed would be. But yes, I'll check with Alan. We'll get in touch with you guys, and then we'll see about next steps.
So, and again, we would want there to be definitely open session about what, having our attorneys sit there with us and say, these are the answer to these questions. Cause again, if it's one of us saying it, I think it can get misinterpreted, or they're like, well, they don't know what they're talking about. And so I think it'd be really important to have the attorney come and do that. So whether we can decide later whether that's at our next meeting or it's a separate work session meeting, that it would still have to be posted online and scheduled. But it sounds like that for sure is one of the things we need to do. In terms of the plan that we got, Kurt, we so appreciate all the time that you put into it, and we're really excited about it. Next steps on a plan like that would be to get construction documents. It does seem like before we would do that, we would want to make sure that that is the final plan. So I believe we need to wait
You
until,
need some sort of a overlay with the off-leash area, cause they're right up against each other,
Right.
or, you know,
right.
um,
So unless I have a motion or someone thinks differently or wants to talk about it, I think we appreciate the work that's been done. We're excited about where it is, and we're hoping to get this decided in the next few months about what an off-leash area how it might impact that area, and then we can continue to move forward. Unless, Kurt, you can think of anything that we could be doing in parallel to keep it moving forward.
I just think that's the only access back there,
Mhm.
and I hate for all that to get torn up with big trucks. That's the only,
would they doing the surface of the parking with the grid and gravel, they wouldn't be bringing track machines back there to do the dog park area? Wouldn't they be rubber tire machines mostly, and would a rubber tire like backhoe, would that tear up the gravel and grid roadway? I know a track machine probably would, but,
you know,
um,
I don't really know. I think it depends a lot on, you know, if they're turning a lot.
yeah.
Just go straight across.
Cause they'd be driving pretty much straight across the parking area into where they'd be working.
If the goal is to make that area soil and sod, why not do it all at the same time? I mean, I feel like you've been talking about this area, either parking or some combination, so it's always sort of been part of the process, so why not do all the excavation at the same time, put the soil and sod back there, whatever it is. You want soil and sod,
Mhm.
whether it's dog park or removing fences.
That would be ideal.
Yeah.
That would mean defining the meets and bounds of the off-leash area, which would be great. That would be
Yeah.
cheaper too.
Same time is fine. I just think
Yeah.
not before or after.
I mean, to me, it would be most cost effective to get the same excavation.
Yes.
crew
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
work.
for sure, for sure.
Well, and there's talk about.
But we have to have
replace-
a plan for that.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like, Kurt, maybe there'll be some more landscaping. I don't know if you've done off-leash areas, but
It seems to me like you might be building it up to be a much bigger thing than it is, and cost and time and, you know, professionals and so forth. I mean, I'm gonna say Kurt's qualified to.
Yeah.
Off-leash area?
oh yeah,
I've
No,
got dogs.
absolutely. No, I don't think it's. I mean, I think he can go just like he has for this.
And
And-
I think the field layout, making sure all those fields work, and so the park, it's all pieces that all have to fit together. And
So to that end, because this is a different, if we're thinking about wanting to present something to people to consider, do you feel like you're in a place yet where you could say, hey, Kurt, can you give us an estimate on how much a design for an off-leash area in that area? Not deciding yet, or maybe we are saying, one that's 4.6 or 0.4, one that's 0.6.
You're talking the
there.
estimate for the design cost or the construction cost, just,
The estimate for a design cost for him making an off-leash area for us to have people consider. Now, again, we're gonna have to go ask for that, so let's say today, I say, Kurt, can you, we have a motion that says, Kurt, we'd like you to give us an estimate of what that additional design would cost us. He would bring that back to us. We would, at the next meeting, approve it or not approve it, and then it would go to RCDC or the city to fund.
You know what, that would really make sense, because the interfaces, you've got irrigation's gonna get changed up for the parking lot, cause there's a lot of trees we're adding. The off-leash area needs irrigation. There's even talk about redoing all the sod and the underlayment in the ball fields. So I think if we got the parking lot and the off-leash area done together, and with some valves to feed the when and if the ball fields are done, that would make sense. That
No.
would be,
It also makes sense because then we could have a firm document to present to Western Hills as to what the impact would be, rather than it being vague, so they could actually weigh in on the discussion.
yeah,
So,
that keep
I
the
think that's a
baseball
good
stuff
idea.
separate from, yeah.
because there's not, we've discussed this as like, there's not other options. Like, those are pretty much our options. I mean, sure, you could consider a 0.5, but I mean, maybe that's a third alternative, but I think the reason it was 0.4, 0.6 is because 0.4 is the most that you can have for a dog park and retain 5 ball fields from what Alex had put together, and then 0.6 is the most you can have and have 4 ball fields essentially, right? So 0.5 is kind of a no man's land type option. So that's where we came up with 0.4 and 0.6 with Alex, and those seem like the only really viable options.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's a good solution.
All right, so do we have a motion to have Kurt give us an estimate of how much how much it would cost us for 2 designs? One that would interface with the existing parking lot that we just did, and a 0.4 and a 0.6 dog park option.
And do we need also to ask council if we can do a survey?
Does Kurt need a survey?
No, a survey,
We'll
a survey asking the residents about
Oh, okay.
that survey, not
If
a
we wanted to
survey,
do that, you can
physical
make that
survey.
as a separate
Okay.
motion, but just to keep it clean of what we're asking, and this is just him to go out, him to give us an estimate of how much it would cost for us to get a design for a 0.4 and a 0.6 dog park.
I make a motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
Lori? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Okay, so we have a motion now. That passed. We would like that to go into the council packet. Just that we're asking for that. I mean, it doesn't cost us anything to get an estimate of what it's gonna be, but just to give the council an update of sort of where we are on that process for both the parking lot and for the off-leash area. And then at our next meeting, when we find out how much it'll cost us to get that extra design, and we can kind of also get a sense of whether the city or RCDC will pay for it, then we can talk about, hopefully also, we'll have gotten to sit down with our attorneys to find out more about what our limitations are not on the existing agreements, the deed and the lease with girls softball and the baseball. So at our next meeting, we should know, I hope, a lot more to be able to say next step would be a survey, as you described.
We wouldn't wanna go to council next week and ask if we can do the survey. I'm not saying we're doing the survey right away, but I would rather have permission and not keep waiting for, you know what I mean, other meetings just to ask if they're, I mean, do we need council's permission to do a survey is my question.
Well, we would have to
So,
pay someone
yeah.
to develop a survey professionally. Like, I mean, we wanna make sure we're doing it right. So we're not so no one says you were misleading people or you were leading for a certain outcome. Just have it, so yeah, we'd probably have someone design it for us and.
A question to ask is, if we're going to bring something to council, do you want to bring the vague concept of a quote-unquote survey, or would it be more of a firm, here's what a potential survey would look like, so they're not answering in the abstract? I'm just asking a
Well, we
question.
would have to, it sounds like we're gonna have to hire somebody, we're gonna have to have money for it.
It
So
would
if we
also,
don't ask now, then we're waiting another month to take it to council. You know what I mean? Like every meeting that we push things
I
off
know.
is just more time it takes to actually get anything done.
We wrote our own survey for CRC. We used Bowie to administer it, but we wrote the survey.
So, we have a liaison from the council. I wanna go ahead and introduce Kevin, he came in, Kevin Shell, who's our council liaison. And, I guess, I don't know.
What do you think council's preference is? As far as, do we have to hire a professional? And two, when would they like to see, like, when would they like to have us approach them about their approval?
So first, let me just introduce myself for all those who, Kevin Shell, the newest member of City Council. Last month, City Council appointed me and the other Kevin. I guess I'm the other Kevin Glasheen, and me to be liaison support. My plan with the liaison role is just to be here, be very passive, and to answer questions, help any way you can. So I'm glad to answer these questions today, but I will just be very clear, like, this is my opinion / interpretation of stuff, and I also want to be careful not to lean too far into my opinions to sway y'all's job, because y'all have a very important one. You spend a lot more time on it, certainly, than I have or the other Kevin has, so, be careful with that. Now, as far as surveys go, yes, you will need money to do it. Surveys are ridiculously hard to do correctly and to get the results that you want. My experience is also, you kind of got to ask yourself, like, what kind of results do you think you're going to get from this? And how many people do you want to get results from to go do it? And I think one of the things council is going to want to know is how much work and research have you done towards what type of questions are you going to want to ask to get from the public?
We have 6.
So if
Maybe 4.
Yeah, so if you're gonna include that in the list, we might be more, that'll help, but I think the feedback's gonna come back to just, hey, we wanna do a survey. We're gonna kinda just have questions on, like what, about what kind of questions, to how many people, what timeline you're gonna do.
We have that information. It's just, if that's not something council's interested in, I don't want us to keep thinking that's the way we're getting consensus.
I won't say council's not interested in it, I just think that to the survey Jeff pointed out earlier, I think the number was $17,000 to do all the work, something like that, for the comprehensive plan, even though you guys did a bunch of the work yourselves.
I remember a number around 10,000 for Bowie for CRC, but comprehensive plan is a different process. That was
Okay.
straight.
Well, sorry, I meant CRC, what you're referencing, but that's the kind of, you're talking 5 figures to do this.
Yep.
Especially if you're gonna email it and do all that to the whole city. And then you've also got, just my experience with doing this is, I forget what the number of responses we got from CRC.
I thought it was half
Do you have a better
of the residents.
I don't think it was,
suggestion for us to get community
Town halls.
input?
I don't have a better suggestion other than I think you can do more to identify, if you look at just all of the possibilities of what we can and can't do, you can probably rule out a bunch of stuff that would reduce the number of questions.
Oh yeah, we
That you
only
could
have
ask.
3 options.
Well, I didn't hear any of that in this
Okay.
meeting, so, I'm
Status quo 0.6 or 0.4.
okay, so you've already looked at all the, okay, this is where I wanna be careful here. So, there's other, in the conversations that I've seen, and people have talked to me, people have said, hey, what about these other places
Right.
within the
We
city?
have looked at,
We've investigated.
Okay, so if you've done all that, that's the kind of, I guess what I'm really trying to say is if you guys have a format of what you think the survey should be, the general questions you want to get answered, and can send that to council,
yeah,
that has a better chance of being quickly
yeah,
going,
that's what we
yes,
have.
you're on the direction to go do that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I haven't seen that or heard
But
that today.
is there a better option than a survey, I guess guess is my question, cause it seems like it's costly and maybe,
I think that what I've heard, this is my interpretation, I believe, some of the council members have said we have data from other surveys which have indicated things.
but that's 2021. Yeah.
You're asking my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what, in my opinion, you asked me about what the council is probably gonna say. They have said that on the record, that we have other data, that we've done surveys before, we've gathered information. It fundamentally hasn't changed. That's, I think, gonna be some of the opinion. I don't know that that's the majority, but that's what we're running up against. I just don't think, I think surveys are better when you're really trying to dial down
Yeah, we've got it
between
dialed
A
down.
or B. So if you have that,
So in order to approve something like that though, are you ready to write it what it is? Cause that's what we would be making a proposal to them, this is what we want.
We're not, because we don't have opinions from legal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think
So
we have
I
to have
think we
legal
need
before we even think
one
about
more
a
month.
survey.
I think we need one more month before we decide what we can do. But that's helpful to know that if you want council to approve a survey, you're gonna need to be a little bit farther down the road on what you're asking and say, this is how we propose to do a survey. And then they can say yes or no, or here's what we think would make it better.
If you take a preliminary design and a legal opinion,
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
Mhm.
Correct.
My guess is there's more work that can be done to restrict the amount of options available before you go ask the public any more opinions for things.
Right.
Because if you're only getting best case scenario,
We're down to 2 already.
Three.
Well, 3 is just not do
Status
anything.
quo. Yeah, yeah.
So it's not really an
It is a
option.
choice.
that may win.
Right, I'm saying it's not like some far-fetched idea
Right.
that's new.
here's where I will discourage you from doing it too quickly. At best case, you'll get one chance to ask a question, to do a survey. So
Yeah.
if you go through those conversations that you proposed earlier, or any other conversations come up during that research, and you learn new things, it may change your questions going into the survey. That's problematic. So it's just, you ask my input,
Yeah.
that's my word of caution here,
Yeah.
is that you really don't wanna do that till you got all your ducks in a row if you wanna get the best outcome.
And as much as possible, be transparent about, all the things that y'all talked about and considered. So maybe at the next meeting, kind of have some committee notes of, we looked at, the adjacent Austin area. We looked at the area behind the Endeavor Tract. We looked at the lower park. These are the reasons why, we eliminated them from our discussions. Again, not getting too long-winded but it's just like, because I do think it's helpful for people and to minimize rumors out in the community that they go, oh, they're so stupid, they didn't even think that, the city of Austin would have given us that park. It's like, no, we thought about it, and here's what that would have taken. And again, it's just to document that, even if 5 years from now people are having this exact same conversation, you can say, hey, they did think about this. This is why, and we were very intentional, and that's why we narrowed it down to these 3 choices, and this is why we'd like to do it this.
Yeah, we have that, so we can, by
Yeah.
all means, discuss that next week, next month.
I mean, I think the last thing I'll say on the survey topic is I think it's also, me as a resident, when I've been involved in these things in the past, it's helpful if I can go look at some options visually on the city website of what we're talking about. Because someone mentioned earlier, there's this point of like, yeah, I love option A, but when I see the cost, I'm like, oh, no, I don't wanna do that. And I think money does matter to a lot more people in this community and how we spend money than the park in general. From all the people that I've talked to, I mean, there are people.
Well, then are you asking people to weigh whether or not we do the parking lot or we do a separate dog area? Do you know what I mean? Like
I do.
so I think then it becomes, we didn't ask them if they wanted us to spend that money.
Yeah, well, this is why
Or
surveys,
tell them you can have this. I don't see where I get a choice when someone gives me a money option. When the city says they're gonna do something. They don't typically tell me what it's gonna cost, unless they want me to lean a certain way.
they will tell me.
Representative democracy.
Yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
And that's, I think, part of the argument about why you don't necessarily need to do a survey here for these decisions either.
Well, and the parking lot, it exists, it has boundaries already, we're not changing of where that is, but we are deciding whether we want it to be modernized with lines or, just leave it the way that it is. So it is, but it is a choice. And we went through this with the walking trail. Y'all remember? I mean, that was our number one when we prioritized stuff. Everyone said walking trail because it was something that everyone used. And then when we saw what the cost would be to have someone come in and do that, it was like, well, $500,000, we're not doing it. But we did do it all out and open. We said, this is what we're considering. It was something that was easy for everyone, but with that price tag, it wasn't. And so hopefully we'll get a design and then we can get some bids and some estimates similar to what we've done so far to be able to say, parking lot is gonna be about this, separate off-leash area is gonna be about this, so that again, people at least have some educated, ability to weigh in on it.
And the point of sending it to council would be for council to say, we want the entire community's opinion, or they elected us to represent them, we are going to make this decision. And so that would be council's decision when we send them this quote-unquote option.
Yeah, I don't really wanna go down the road of survey if it's not something council's behind.
Right.
I mean, there's just no reason for us to spin our wheels.
Well, you're asking for my input on what
Yeah.
the debate's likely to be about when this does come. And I'm going to say, I'm speaking for myself, I'm very fiscally conservative, so I care about spending $1.
Me too.
And every time we spend $1, I ask, what are we not spending $1 on? And I want to do more of that during the rest of my term because I think that's just the right thing to do here. And I think we don't ask a lot of people about the money part, but I think it's the elected officials' jobs to very much worry about that. Because there are a lot of other things going on in the city that cost more money than we have currently. That if people really knew all about it, they might feel differently. So the survey is a giant can of worms if you're not careful how you go about doing it. And there is the theory, which I also agree to, that we elect people, we appoint people, we do all that out in the open. We let everybody be involved in that process. So sometimes these hard decisions have to be made by the people that are elected, and people, and in our case, all the people that have volunteered for these.
I think where the
particular
survey
jobs.
came from was that an old survey was brought up, so we thought, well, maybe it's time if we're gonna talk about old data, let's get new data. So that's where that came from, because how do you say this might not be true any longer 6 years down the road?
Right.
Other than by asking people again.
Yeah.
So that's where this all stemmed from, was
Yeah.
last city council meeting.
Yeah, and I just believe that the conversations that I've watched in past council meetings and involved in current council, they're gonna be reluctant to
Well,
do
I'm
that.
reluctant to spend
So-
10 to 20 grand on a survey. I think that's insane. But I also don't know how to make people feel like they had an opportunity to be heard.
Yeah, I think that this is just my opinion, so I think council's been pretty clear that they wanna do something here, status quo. But is an option, but probably not the best option. I think that has also signaled that there will be funding available within reason,
Right.
within
And
reason.
again, I don't know that this needs to be designed and put out for bids and all of that. Like, I feel like we have been using ball fields. I mean, I don't know that this needs to be a grand expenditure. So anyway, my 2 cents. That was very helpful, though. I appreciate your input and your insight into council. That is very helpful.
And in the future, please I'll be here, but don't ask me hard questions.
Too late.
Too bad.
Okay,
Thank
so
you, Kevin.
I believe where we are is, we're telling them that we're recommending, to get a plan for a separate off-leash area with 2 options. And we're gonna wait for another month about whether we wanna do a survey, but maybe you guys move forward with, if you have survey ideas, so that we would be able to more fully explain to council what our intention would be with one. And, is there anything else?
And we made a motion to request, an estimate on the cost to design.
Yes, yep. Okay,
And by design, we mean, are there parameters around that? or just,
Well, we're gonna do a 0.4 and a 0.6 and a nothing, and I think the nothing has already been designed. So those are the three options, so.
And keeping in mind with the aesthetic that we've just built in over here and the aesthetic on the new parking area, and I think what you're hearing from us, Kurt, now is we'll wanna hear the super least expensive version, like with fewer plants and easy to maintain, and maybe if we do develop our fundraising abilities and we are able to get, you know, a bunch of people excited about contributing either to sitting, et cetera, areas in that parking area or in the new off-leash area, that we might be able to have some whistles and bells that go into that, but keeping it pretty simple, easy to maintain.
yes, simple and easy to maintain are always my goal.
Yeah.
Because if we can't maintain it, it's no good to us, because it just ends up looking,
And can I lean
Sad.
on Lori and Sean and myself to talk to Kurt, if Kurt has
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah.
We'll maybe even do a little committee meeting with him and say, if you need more direction from us, we're happy to. We invite Alex if she's willing, to make additions to that.
Kurt asked me, I'll be there.
Yeah,
Well,
perfect.
unless you had some ideas on fencing and
Great, cool.
things like that too, make it feel like a park.
Yeah.
Park first, and these other things are just within the park. So.
right.
Cool. All right, anything else? Okay, I do wanna say, Dawn, thank you very, very
Yes,
much for
thank you,
all of
Dawn.
your time, and,
I've got one more meeting to come to.
okay, well then I'll save it for, I'll save the tears for
But
the
you're
next
welcome.
meeting. But we're excited for you, and we really do appreciate all the time that you've given. Cool. All right, motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
all in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.